Thank you, Madam Lieutenant Governor. The Speaker, I'll pick up on your remarks to the person who should be given the State of the State based on your reaction, our new Senate Pro Tem. My gosh. What is that? Clearly still in your honeymoon phase. You're going to enjoy it. I'm just saying. By the way, I was looking for some response from some of the folks over here on the right. When the Speaker said this is his last State of the State, I was assuming DeMaio would look up and maybe applaud or something. So hopefully a few of them are shaking their head. They're looking forward to this. The sad thing for you, you're going to have to endure about 45 to 50 minutes of this. And I say endure because we're all in this together, including myself. The reason I've been back here in a few years is, as you know, I have no problem speaking. And perhaps, sometimes a little more long-windedly than people like. But when it comes to the written text, that has never served me well. I did a little children's book a few years back that sort of exposed the truth, the ugly truth about my challenges with reading. I'm not shy or, embarrassed about my 960 SAT score. But I am a little bit about my inability to read the written text. And so it's always been something that I have to work through and I'm confronting. And so I say that with grace. I say that with the humility that's at hand today. And I also say that in the spirit, as I said, of what the Speaker was saying. For some of you, it may have been a little jarring what he said. For others, it was more than appropriate. The stress that many of us are feeling, the stacking of stress in that journey the Lieutenant Governor is talking about over the last 7 years. And I don't think we've given ourselves the kind of grace that we deserve. We never had time to really reflect on everything we've been together. Last time I talked here was 2020. And all of a sudden, everything was virtual. And then we came right out of that, and the social unrest, supply chains, inflation, all this stacking of stress. And so I'll try to reflect some of that in my comments today. I'll say things that may be piercing to some of you, but it's not intended to demean, it's not intended to divide, but I'm speaking from my heart. I'm saying what I think, again, with the grace and humility to know that I am constantly a work in progress. I'm learning on this job, 7+ years in. Learning every single day, and proud in closing as I jump into the speech of all of you and all that I've learned from each and every one of you, each and every one of you, regardless of your politics, regardless of your faith, regardless of where you live and who you voted for. I just want to express gratitude to every single person in this chamber, to every single person that shaped who we are today and what this state represents, not just today, but tomorrow. But first, speaking of shaping things, I've been thinking a lot about, your final speech. Think about your life. Think about your journey. Think about the things that shaped you. And I'll begin a little bit with that, about having spent nearly my entire life, now almost 6 decades, along the rivers of this remarkable state, from my youthful days on the upper American River with my dad to my time with my own children downriver, not too far from here. Those rivers that have shaped the story, not only my life, but shaped the story of California, a sense of place, from native people shaped by these rivers to men who extracted riches from their silt. The shout of Eureka, Eureka. It's when the madness began. Fortunes were made, fortunes were lost, time over and over again. Farmers who worked the soils nourished by those rivers, settlements that turned into towns that turned into thriving American port cities. Industries in our state flourished. Through 2 world wars, a Great Depression, and social upheaval, booms and busts, California endured. California thrived. And the rivers, they kept flowing. For 100 in 75 years, California has been a marvel of invention and reinvention, disaster and recovery, grit and ingenuity. We've found ways to build the future over and over. But today, that spirit is being tested. We face an assault on our values unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime. The federal government, respectfully, it's unrecognizable, protecting the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. Their credo seems to be about fear, fear of the future, fear of the stranger, fear of change. In Washington, the president believes that might makes right, that the courts are simply speed bumps, not stop signs, that democracy is a nuisance to be circumvented, secret police, businesses being raided, windows smashed, citizens detained, citizens shot, masked men snatching people in broad daylight, people disappearing, using American cities as training grounds for the United States military, purposeful chaos emanating from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, shifting the tax burden from the wealthy, from billionaires to small businesses, ranchers, farmers, and the middle class, lining the pockets of the rich, crony capitalism at unimaginable scale, state capitalism, self-dealing, profit-making, not policy-making, rolling back rights of marginalized communities, rewriting history, censoring historical facts. Their politics, of some twisted nostalgia about restoring the dynamics of a bygone era. None of this is normal. And it's important to remember at moments like this, the greatest tragedy is not, as King said, the clamor of bad people, but it's the appalling silence of so many good people. Not normal. But in California, we're not silent. You're not silent. You're not hunkering down. We're not retreating. We're a beacon. The state is providing a different narrative, an operational model, a policy blueprint for others to follow. This state, this people, this experiment in democracy belongs not to the past, but it belongs to the future. Expanding civil rights for all, opening doors for more people to pursue their dreams, dreams that are not exclusive, not to any one race, not to any one religion or class, standing up for traditional virtues, compassion, courage, and a commitment to something larger than our own self-interest, and asserting that no one, particularly the President of the United States, stands above the law. We've gone to court. We've gone to court to protect our people, pushing back against this executive overreach. 52 lawsuits have been filed, funded by you, by the way, in the special session that all of you led. And as a consequence, point of pride for our Attorney General, as a consequence, we preserved about $168 billion in illegally frozen federal resources that belong to our schools, that belong to our hospitals, that belong to our seniors, resources that belong to all the people of this great state. We have one request for emergency relief, and we have affirmed the Constitution of the United States as the supreme law of the land. I say this with respect, but mindful. But Mr. President, you can't cut off critical food assistance for millions of people. You can't send the military into American cities without justification. And you cannot cruelly and illegally cut off funding for medical research, homeland security, or disaster response. That is wrong. That is wrong. And you have all stood up. You have all stood up. Our Attorney General has stood up. Our Speaker has stood up. Our Pro Tem has stood up. All of you, on behalf of all people in our state. Proud of that. You should be proud of that. Well, I'm not naive, you know. If we're going to keep the faith of the California spirit, we got to do more than just resist what is wrong. We got to keep building what's right. We're not defined, we all know this, we're not defined by what we're against, we're defined by what we're for, opportunity and dignity, derangement syndrome. Look at this state to tear down, try to attack all our progress, but we know the truth. California's success is not by chance, it's by design. We've created the conditions where dreamers and doers and misfits and marvels with grit and ingenuity come to build the impossible. We became a destination for the world's first-round draft choices, the best and the brightest who come here from all over the world for riches and new beginnings. And I'm not just talking about the tech CEOs and the founders in Silicon Valley or the producers and writers in Hollywood. I'm talking about the mechanics in Modesto, the farm workers in Salinas, and the police officers in El Centro. That's what we do, first-round draft choices. No state, simply no state in America that contributes more, none, to the American greatness. No state builds more ladders to success or sees around more corners. The biggest manufacturing economy constructed here. The most productive agricultural economy grown here. 18%. 18% of the world's R&D invested right here in California. 1/2 of America's unicorn companies, those companies valued over $1 billion, 1/2 are in the great state of California. And get this, the happiest cities. Right here in California, you know who you are. Fremont, San Jose, Irvine, San Francisco, and San Diego, consistently the most happiest places on earth. In your state, I think that matters. And it's interesting, isn't it? Those cities, they have so much in common, don't they? And that's proximity. The one thing they all have in common is proximity to the greatest research institutions in the world, the greatest system of public higher education anywhere in the world, this conveyor belt for talent. A proof point, you all know this, but I want to remind everybody, a proof point, just last year, the UCs, they added an additional 5 Nobel laureates to its roster. 1 out of every 3 laureates here in California. Come on. It's almost too much. I was reading this. I don't see this on some of the cable networks. 13,700 active patents in the UC system alone. That's more than any other system on the globe. We simply have no peers. And this, again, I said it earlier, it's not by chance, it's by design. You've nurtured these steps, big and small. They've emanated from these chambers. You have kept the state stable. You've kept it reliable because you've invested in the California dream. Just last year, building that framework, we worked together to unveil the first concrete economic development blueprint in California's history. It wasn't top down, it's bottom up. It's region by region. Some 10,000 people, remarkable number, participated in the development of this plan. We call it Jobs First. 13 economic and workforce development plans aligned to the universities, aligned to our trade schools. It's a plan that reconciles the macroeconomic story of the world's 4th largest economy, $4+ trillion a year, with the microeconomic reality of 40 million people living here. It's an economic plan that's nourishing. It's an economic plan that's family supporting. For the Central San Joaquin, that means jobs in manufacturing and clean energy, and of course, agriculture. For the Redwood region, it's jobs in tourism and health and forestry and fisheries. For San Diego and Imperial counties, new jobs in high tech, biotech, advanced manufacturing and hospitality. For the Central Coast, new jobs in aerospace, defense, semiconductors, quantum, and ag tech. We're doing all of this in conjunction, by the way, with our wildly successful Cal Competes tax credit program that's helping businesses hire more Californians, expanding innovation all across our state. Proof points, aerospace engineering in Torrance, beneficent. Hydrogen fuel cell manufacturing in Lancaster. Fusion R&D in San Leandro. And in Kern County, the first, this is interesting, in Kern County, Mojave, It's the first steel mill built in California in half a century. That's interesting. By the way, and I'm going to get to the budget in a second, but this is a little bit of a preview. By the way, I'll be requesting all of you, with your indulgence in tomorrow's budget, that we reauthorize. I'll be asking that you reauthorize our tax credit program for an additional 5 years. It is working. You know what else is working? Speaking of tax credits, ever since that first moving image was taken of a horse, some of you may recall this, a horse named Sally in Palo Alto, to the early silent film studios in Fremont in Los Angeles, Hollywood has been one of California's, been perhaps the most California of industries. And that's why we're proud we worked together last year to double down on our film and tax credit programs. And not only keep our iconic industry here, but all the unionized camera operators, stunt performers, wardrobe, and set designers. It's a point of pride, and that program is working and producing real results because of your leadership. But as we support our proud past, we also need to make investments in our economic future. We're defining the next decade and beyond through robotics and fusion and space and quantum and artificial intelligence. And speaking of which, I understand it goes without saying that no technology holds more promise, also and more peril to jobs, our economy, to our way of life than artificial intelligence. Bottom line is the tech genie's out of the bottle. So the question is not whether change is happening, it is. The question is, what values will guide us into this new frontier? And that's a question you're answering, that we are answering. Last year, we worked together on landmark legislation to create the nation's first rules for responsible, ethical, and safe use of AI. Regulations that provide guardrails that balance risk and opportunity. This was a consensus effort and a template for the nation where you may have just seen, just recently, New York State adopted our approach, your approach here in California, and made it their own. That's California leadership. We're leading the way in this space. It's how we're shaping the future. And it's a unique combination, isn't it, of conscience and capital, entrepreneurial and innovative spirit that encourages risk-taking but discourages recklessness. Policy that creates predictability, so investors have confidence and innovators have space to dream and do. Compare that to this carnival of chaos on the national stage. All these mini dramas that we have to deal with hour by hour, this sort of vapid day trading with real world consequences. No more striking than that big, beautiful bill. I want to remind everybody what it means to all of us here in California. That big, beautiful bill is putting 1.8 million Californians at risk of losing their health insurance. 2 million facing premium increases. 2 million. Cuts in food aid poised to impact some 375,000 Californians. And for what? For what? All to benefit the top 10% of this country. People already own 2/3. Top 10%, 2/3 of the household wealth. Plutarch. Brown quoted Cincinnatus in his last speech. I'll quote Plutarch. Said the imbalance, said this almost about 2,000 years ago. He warned the Athenians. Imbalance, 2,000 years ago. The imbalance between the rich and the poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Think about that. 2,000 years ago. It's just not sustainable. It's not. Understanding the lessons of the past, California, all of us, we've marched the beat of a different drum. We built one of the most progressive tax systems in the nation. One that asked high-income residents to pay a little bit more without punishing those that are making a little bit less. Think about this, and I hope folks over here think about this. There are 11 states in the United States of America that tax their middle wage earners more than the state of California. There are 16 states in the United States of America that tax their low wage earners more than California taxes its high wage earners. So the question to all of you, who are the high tax states? Just consider Texas Just consider Florida, the two most regressive tax states in America. They're hammering their low-income earners. They're hammering them more than their wealthiest. Who are the high tax states? California stands for fairness. And by the way, it's not just in our tax code and our tax policy in more ways than one. And that's why I was proud. I was proud to work with all of you last year, proud to work with the legislature to raise the minimum wage for fast food workers in this state to $20 an hour. And also, that's a point of pride. And how about those healthcare workers, the highest minimum wage in the United States of America, working with you at $25 an hour? But there's some of you probably thinking, no, well, that's just too bad. We should be like Alabama, maybe South Carolina, maybe like Tennessee. 20 states now across this country that keep their minimum wage at $7.25 an hour. Come on. Hasn't been raised in nearly 2 decades, the federal minimum wage. Try to pay rent, try to raise a family, try to pay for an education on $7.25 an hour. Comes down to a simple question, doesn't it? Who do you stand for? Who do you stand for? Do you stand for the rich and the powerful, the most well-connected? Or do you stand for bus drivers and janitors? Do you stand there with special education teachers that are working overtime to support and raise their families? Who do you stand for? Who do you represent? It's reflected in our values. I mean it. We have to answer that question. The good news is you're answering that question. Point of pride.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.